So regarding big tech banning Alex Jones, I think I have no opinion. I just see a lot of different arguments. So why did all these big tech companies ban him today? So if you're a right-wing activist, you say this is collusion by big tech trying to shut down an important right-wing voice to smooth the way for the Democratic Party in the 2018 elections. And if I were a right-wing activist, I mean, that would be the approach I'd be taking. Because as an activist, your goal is to rile people up, get them angry. It's like, oh, we gotta take action here, right? We just can't sit back and take this anymore. We've got to do something. We've got to protest. We've got to boycott. We've got to yell and scream, and we've got to make our voices heard, and we've got to take back this country. Okay, that's the activist approach. It's like a close-up in a movie, okay, or a TV show. Like a close-up is more emotionally intense, generally speaking, than a long shot, okay? And so the activist point of view is close up, it's emotionally intense, it's, we got to get angry, we got to take action, we got to get back at these guys, we got to, go into combat, we got to fight back, okay? So my personality, generally speaking, is to look at things from the 10,000 foot level. Okay, that's my tendency. It's not to be an activist. It's not to rile people up. I like people to get happy. Because I think 95% of people, 95% of the time, can glide through life. And 95% of the time, my opinion is if you're not gliding through life, that's because of you. Right? If you're going through life, creating turbulence, getting banned, getting kicked out of places, losing friends, getting disinvited, deplatformed. My bias is that's primarily on you. So an activist bias is, look how unfair this is. We're getting screwed. Big tech is out to get us. And so I don't think that's primarily what's going on with Alex Jones. I think he was operating on thin ice, and then he said something recently that was just so far over the line that not many people of goodwill are going to say, yeah, this guy needs to be on these major social media platforms. So what did he say recently? And he said essentially that he was going to intimate that he was going to shoot George Mueller, the special counsel investigator of the Russian collusion story. So I think that went down something like July 22nd. If you just Google Alex Jones and his comments, his threats against George Mueller, I think that was just the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. So there are many reasons I'm not a big fan of Alex Jones. I think his hawking of what seemed like really shoddy supplements just makes his show the equivalent of a bad neighborhood. Okay, if you're gonna hawk what seemed like ridiculous supplements, and I'm a big fan of supplements, so it's not like I think, oh, all supplements are horrible. No, big fan of supplements, but the way I just don't trust Alex Jones. Okay, I'm glad he's on our side, I guess. I'm glad he's a Trump supporter. I'm glad he energizes low IQ people who follow him. But everything pretty much about him gives me the willies. So there was a very funny on that show, that HBO show with that English comedian, just like did a 15-minute segment on Alex Jones's supplement shilling, and it's just so cringeworthy. So I'm not an Alex Jones fan. I'm not outraged by him either, but to say that Sandy Hook was a government plot, okay, I think that's ridiculous. Say that 9/11 was a United States government plot, unless you got some substantive evidence to present, I think these are ridiculous. Pizzagate, the Democratic Party is running a pedophile ring out of Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C. I think unless you have stronger evidence than what's been presented so far, I don't find that a strong story. It's not the hill that I would want to die on. Okay, I would not want to risk my publication or my reputation, or not that I have this amazing reputation, but just speaking in generalities. If I was a journalist or public commentator, I would not want to risk my reputation alleging something for which the evidence is really thin. So Alex Jones, I think he claimed that the moon landings were hoaxes. So for his outrageous claims, I just don't think he's provided much supporting evidence. And so I think these bans are primarily about Alex Jones rather than about the tech companies. Now there's an excellent rejoinder to that, is Alex Jones has been doing his thing for years and years and years. Why are the tech companies only acting now? And so, yeah, I think it's true that in the aftermath of the 2016 election, tech companies received a lot more pressure to crack down on fake news. And I don't think that is a completely ridiculous mandate. Now, they really don't want to be in the business of determining what is fake news, but they operate in a social context where they're under enough pressure by lawmakers that they have to start making some efforts. So, let's say there's a school shooting, and let's say that due to human psychology, due to the nature of human psychology, let's say there's a school shooting and the videos getting the most hits are the ones alleging some massive government conspiracy for which there's no evidence. So YouTube in this new environment feels an incentive to reduce the prominence of such factless conspiracy videos when people search the details of a particular school shooting. I see where Facebook's coming from on that perspective. So, yeah, I understand why right-wing activists are all up in arms, because InfoWars and Alex Jones are on the side of Trump and the right. On the other hand, Alex Jones just has such a cringe-worthy track record. His own lawyer described him as a performance artist, and so why should YouTube be forced to give a platform to someone who issues violent threats against people like George Mueller? Like, should Facebook, YouTube, Spotify be forced to give platforms to prominent people who issue violent threats? What about people who engage in doxing? Doxing is perfectly legal. Giving out someone's home address and personal information is to harass them is perfectly legal, generally speaking. But do you really want your platform being used for doxing? Like, I would not want my platform used for doxing. I don't want my platform used in general for incivility, I don't want my platform used to spread lies. I generally don't want my platform used to just spread, needless hatred. So watch YouTube's 4-minute video on its community guidelines, and I find I agree with 90% of them. So there's an awful lot of alt-right material on YouTube. So I don't think it's been that draconian in its crackdowns on speech. Yeah, it gave me a strike. I thought it was wrong to give me a strike. I appealed it, haven't heard back. But I like the content on YouTube. I think there's a wide variety. Just watch that Google YouTube community guidelines 4-minute video and tell me it's outrageous. I just don't think it's outrageous. And I don't think right now, I don't think these bans of Alex Jones are outrageous. I think they're reacting to Alex Jones making violent threats against George Mueller and frequently just behaving like a bad citizen, like making outrageous claims like the Sandy Hook massacre was a government conspiracy, things like that. I can understand why YouTube, Facebook would not want their content on their social media platforms. On the other hand, I am sympathetic to Thou Shalt Not Censor, the proposed Paul Nealon legislation. I'm sympathetic to things that Frame Game Radio says about preventing censorship on social media. So right now I'm in the middle. I don't know where to come down on Alex Jones. He hasn't been banned from the internet. He's got a website. Doesn't he have a syndicated radio show? So he's got platforms. He can build his own platform. But the major social media companies don't want him on there due to his bad behavior, such as issuing violent threats against people like George Mueller. So I am open to that Thou Shalt Not Censor legislation. In fact, I like it. On the other hand, I also like companies should have the right to decide what happens on their own platforms, which are just an extension of their own property. So I guess I don't see the Alex Jones crackdown as primarily a crackdown on the right. I see it as a crackdown on Alex Jones, on the fact-free, outrageous, violent, bullying content that he sometimes puts out. And I haven't watched much of Alex Jones. As I said, he gives me the willies. So I'm not making any pronouncements on the totality of Alex Jones's product. Like, it may well be that in total he's providing a valuable function. I'm skeptical of that. On the other hand, I'm skeptical of claims that he's just degrading the public discourse and he's a menace to democracy. I don't buy that either. My expectation is that Alex Jones kind of falls somewhere in the middle between being a boon and between being a threat to American democracy. I think he's a performance artist, and I just don't know the type of people who would watch his show. It just seems like his show would primarily attract losers, like people who want to believe in conspiracy theories because they don't feel that they have much control over their own life. I was reading work by this Druid, I think, I'm trying to remember his name, but generally speaking, the more control people feel over their lives, the less inclined they are to adopt conspiracy theories and to dabble in magic and mysticism. And the less control people feel over their lives, and the more likely they are to dabble in magic and mysticism and conspiracy theories. So I can't imagine that there are a lot of successful, well-adjusted people watching Alex Jones. It's just such a cringy, low IQ approach that he has. It's like, it's not my thing. And so I don't know how much this is denying him a right to speak. He's still got his own website, still got his own platforms. This is other people deciding that they don't want what he traffics in on their property. So if you come to my house and start yelling the N-word really loud, I'm going to ask you to leave. Okay? I just don't want that in my home. If you're dressed up as a Nazi, I'm not going to invite you into my home. And there's all sorts of behavior that I would not want in my home or on my platform, on my website, on my YouTube shows, on my Twitter timeline. So I block people on Twitter, just like I block people in real life. If you're incivil, if you're a jerk in my real life, I'm going to reduce my interactions with you to the greatest extent possible. And if you're a jerk to me on social media, I'm simply going to protect myself from dealing with a jerk. And come on, guys, stay in your lane. So I guess why shouldn't YouTube and Spotify and Facebook have the right to say we don't want this jerk on our platform? So do we think that if Alex Jones was on the left and still peddling the same type of conspiracy theories, that YouTube and Facebook would be fine with it? I don't. And you may say, well, why isn't YouTube cracking down on Antifa? Well, Antifa is not a centralized organization like InfoWars. Antifa's an attitude. Antifa's anarchic. It's not nearly as easy to crack down on. So I'm going to be debating with Frame Game Radio in about 2 hours, I believe. Then I'll be discussing the same topic with Kevin Michael Grace in about 2.5 hours. And so right now I'm right in the middle, not sure what to think about Alex Jones. And maybe I'll hear some arguments that change my mind and move me into one camp or the other. Generally speaking, I think most of us, most of the time, have the capability of just gliding through life. And if we don't, that's on us. And that means there's work we need to do. So I'm not sure, I don't buy into the narrative that Alex Jones is an innocent victim.